Here it is.
This is a show in itself, watching your gyrations there, Rex. You should.
Yeah, this is the Rex dances on.
There you go.
All right, so behind me, whom you may or may not be able to see, some of our class.
Is that the projector?
Yeah, there's a 16 milliliter projector there. Showed up today. What were you saying?
I haven't seen one of those since grade school.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this is Curt Apduhan, and Curt is a cinematographer. He's the cinematographer of the award-winning Armagosa, a documentary, beautifully shot.
Thank you.
And you also worked with Chris Lockhart on Most Valuable Player.
I would hardly call that work. That was quite fun.
That was quite fun, which is a documentary about a musical in college that Oprah very much enjoyed and sponsored or promoted and stuff. And other things. So kind of describe for us your role as a DP and the different kinds of projects that you get hired to do. The class will have questions. I will have questions. But like you worked a project yesterday. I mean, you do commercial, industrial. What are the different kinds of...
Well, as a DP, particularly out in, let's say, Southern California, the first thing that comes to mind when cinema people, film people think of DPs, they think of features or episodic. But there's a whole other world out there. I live actually in Orange County, about a couple miles from Disneyland. So I'm actually out of the LA world. So by doing that, it kind of opens you up to a lot of different projects. So we shoot a lot of corporate out here in Orange County. We shoot a lot of commercial work. I do feature documentaries, which is what I'm, I guess, known for. But I also do, feature work as well. So I share a lot more similarity with people maybe out of, freelancers or DPs out of Chicago or, even Wisconsin, that we have to do multiple things. So it's actually liberating, because a lot of times in LA, once you get pigeonholed, and I know some ASC members and some pretty big time DPs, and even they get frustrated because once they're like an actor, once they're known for doing a certain type of shoot, that's all they get hired for, because there's so many talented shooters out there. So let's say if you were a drama guy and you want to kind of do a broad comedy, well, they'd say, well, you're Cronenweth and you do Dragon Tattoo. We're not going to let you do the latest Chris Rock or whatever film, because it's not what people do out here. So I think it's really fortunate if you're kind of growing your skill outside of Hollywood first, because it allows you to do a lot of different projects, allows you to shoot a lot. I know a lot of guys up in town don't shoot as much as they can because they are pigeonholed. So we do a lot of different things out here. Yesterday I was doing some stuff for our children's hospital, and as a documentary cinematographer, you get to see a lot of interesting life stories and be part of them, and that kind of really informed my narrative work or fiction work. So it's good to be well-rounded. I actually have a business degree, and I came to cinematography late. Unlike your students there, I didn't go to film school. So there's a different ways of cutting the cat, if you will, or skinning the cat. And film school is awesome, and you have an opportunity to use the equipment that some of you may not be able to use, although in this day and age, technology allows a lot of really high-level production values with relatively inexpensive equipment. Back in our day when I started, it was all film. So it was, you're looking at $300 for a roll of film, and that gets you about 10 minutes or less. Plus, the cameras are $250,000 and the lenses and all that. So it really kept people from making films. But, with your students back there, it's an exciting time. And I don't know, when I run onto set with younger DPs or crew members, I don't think they realize how exciting and how much of an opportunity it is to make film. Because back in our day, you would save up your entire, college tuition and not go to college just to make a short film in order to try to break into the business. So it's exciting times, and I think all the shooters out there, DPs, even directors who like to shoot, particularly for all the social media stuff, just shoot as much as you can, because that's going to inform your work later as you start learning your craft. So yeah, we just do a lot of stuff out here. It's exciting times.
Well, I like what you said. People do get pigeonholed, and it is important to be able to get past that, and so the more experience that you have shooting different genres or in different career paths, the more flexible you are, the more likelihood of being able to do more of what you want to do when the opportunity arises.
Yeah, and I think today, I think the film students are a little different with their worldview versus when the friends of mine who did go to like ASC or AFI or Long Beach State, some of them, and somebody goes, well, who's Long Beach State? Well, Spielberg went to Long Beach State and they actually flunked him and he quit. so the program's gotten better. At least the professors have been able to spot, better talent since then. But the thing about the times that we're living in right now is that I think people that go to film school are more their mindset is more of a filmmaker mindset. They do editing, effects work, they know about the camera, and that's a double-edged sword. So what happens is that if you come from a filmmaker mindset, you kind of enjoy being in all aspects of the process. However, the flip side of that is that you don't really become a master of any one of those. And I think if you want to be a working cinematographer, I mean, at a Roger Deakins level, or if you want, and shoot movies of that level, or things that you see every day on either television or in your movie theaters, you have to start getting out of a filmmaker mindset and become more into a cinematographer mindset where you are really into the craft of the camera, and more importantly, the craft of the lighting. And lighting is something that I really see as being very weak overall with people's attention. Everybody's into gear. I see so many, it just maddens me. Oh, I got a gimbal here, or I got, the latest 4K, camera there, or what lens shall I buy, Rokinon or Cinema Primes? And I sit there, well, does anybody ever want to go to a Home Depot and figure out what light, maybe a light bulb you should use? Because if you don't illuminate anything, it's just radio, right? If it's black, you're just doing radio. So I think if you learn lighting, if you learn beyond, if you're fortunate enough to learn beyond just what lighting does, and more importantly, how you can get what's in your head, what you see visually, what you can imagine in your head, and actually manifest itself in front of the camera with light, then you can start considering that, yeah, maybe I am a cinematographer. But until then, you're a camera operator, you're really, maybe a great shooter, but you're really not a cinematographer. A cinematographer will take a situation right now where, well, let me just move my camera. If you can see my light, I have a light set up just because I know that if I didn't have a light here, it'd probably, look like I'm backlit and pretty crappy. So my mindset is always about light first. It's not about camera position and placement. I always walk into a room or set or studio, and I always think about what the light does. Because the camera will kind of fall into its own. The camera will, if you set the stage, and maybe it's my documentary background, is where we walk into real life situations and immediately we have to figure out where we need to place the camera. If the setting's there, the camera, if between you and the director, you can kind of figure that out. But the lighting is the issue of how do you create that light? As a, let's say, a fiction or a narrative storyteller, as a cinematographer. Creating that light, that mood that will fit the story, that you'll also be able to get out on set on time and be able to do it quickly and repeat it, that's what will start making a cinematographer.
Well, I think that's an excellent point. Cameras today, equipment today, require less light, meaning less equipment light. However, the book, the idea of painting with light, you still, as a cinematographer, you are orchestrating, you are creating, you are painting what you want to be seen on film. You're not just capturing available light because you got a camera that can shoot in the dark. You're still engineering the look, as an artist would, and that still does take time to light, and the more experience you have in lighting, the more you're able to inform the first AD or the director, how much time you need to to set it up for camera. So
yeah, I mean, there's the technical side of getting the lighting done on your day. But I think what excites me, like whenever I have a conversation, let's say I'm at Cinego, which is a big show out here in LA, and it's kind of like NAB if you're into broadcasting, but it's done on the Paramount lot, and all the industry, you have your dollies, your cranes, your helicopters, everything, everybody's there, and everybody kind of can, it's a social thing. You catch up with crew members you haven't worked with, and you see huge name DPs walking around. But the conversations I always tend to, sit around the booths there are with gaffers. And I have great conversations with anybody in the lighting or the grips. Camera operators, I kind of, okay, but, they're talking their technical stuff maybe, but because the camera side of it, yes, with lens selection, with movement, it is a motor. But what is purely art and what is purely your soul, your passion, is light. And the way you shape and control the light is what I'm really speaking about. Yes, technologically, right now I'm running a Cree light bulb out of Home Depot. I've basically replaced on my small little compact interview kit, I had CFLs, compact fluorescent light bulbs, which were these little pigtail things, and it comes from the photography world. And what's great about the digital age is that you can use these really smaller wattage lights that put out a lot of output, lumens, and they're cheap. Unlike spending $2,000 on a Hollywood lighting instrument, you can get the same thing in effect for about $100 worth of light bulbs at a Cree light bulb at Home Depot, and I just put them in my fixtures and they work perfectly fine. So, but just having the light is not really what it's all about. It's the shaping and controlling and the molding of that light, meaning your grip equipment, the things that go between the light and the subject. So, again, if you're truly a cinematographer or you're truly meant to be in the, let's say, the DP path, you will geek out, not on cameras, but you'll probably geek out on flags, scrims, menace arms, dollies, things that, that are surrounding the camera that allow you to shape light, to move the camera, to make the camera an expressive, almost an organic thing. A camera all by itself, you can use a Canon, the 500, 300, 100. You're looking at the Alexas. You're looking at, I just went through a couple months ago, the reveal of the werent, the Panasonic 35 werent, all exciting stuff. But as soon as, like at the werent demo up in Panavision, as soon as they say, oh, we're going to do a live demo with one candle, oh man, I got excited. It was worth the hour of drive up to Tarzana. Because they lit an entire scene with one candle. And you can find this on video or on YouTube. And they lit an entire scene with just one candle live. And it showed you the power of the camera itself. But that's not what I got excited about. I got excited about the possibility of not having to use lights, of moving lights, of using practical lights. And that's where I think the industry is going, is where we actually just say, you can use less light. Sure, you can use less light technically. But at the same time, you have to know what to do with that light, how to mold it. So that's, I think, right now for young, cinematographers and filmmakers, yes, the camera stuff is there, and go on B&H and all these other, great sites, and you can figure out what your price is, and you can go buy one. But really start thinking about controlling that light. Start thinking about grip and lighting control, C-stands and arms and sandbags. And that's the kind of stuff that I think will really move those simple things is what's going to set you apart than most of the other shooters who just show up with a rocking camera.
Well, I think it's important to point out that depending on budget and project, that the DP, the cinematographers, sometimes never touching the camera. I mean, their goal is to paint the picture, to paint the story, to have it framed, and then your camera operators and your focus pullers and everybody else are running the actual equipment. There are times, obviously, when a cinematographer is doing their own shooting, but the job of the cinematographer is more about the look and furthering the story. And capturing that on film, and the way that you do that is by lighting your actors and your subjects and your set and the mood that you create. It's that artistic side to it. You could be sitting back and telling people what to do, but it is about the flagging and the scrimming and the gels and how that look is manufactured.
Yeah, and that can be extended outside of just the movie world. I mean, yesterday we were doing a thing for the Children's Hospital out here in Orange County. And we had pretty much just interview stuff, which I love doing, again, because of a documentary background. I love interviews, because if you really think about an interview as a cinematographer, you're really doing a portrait, like a still photography. So if you I run into so many people out in LA, and I'm sure, you guys out in the Midwest will do the same thing. You shoot so many, let's say, interview or corporate stuff. And they get on set, and they just kind of slap the light up, and they're more concerned about, where they're going to pull the power from, and, we'll just use a V-mount battery. And they forget that it's an opportunity, again, to work on your craft. So I'm 50-something years old now, and I still enjoy, like, if I'm lighting Sting or somebody, or Eddie Vedder for the old school guys, I'm doing an interview there, I'm putting the same amount of care, love, and attention to this little child that has a cleft chin. Because there's a story in everybody, in everything you set up. And I think if you have a love and passion for what we do, you will give the respect to the craft and to the subjects that you will try to find that excitement on every setup. Now, granted, everything can't be high art, and everything can't be, great lighting. And a lot of it is driven by producers. So you kind of walk on set with this really big heart, and you have a lot of, excitement, and then all of a sudden the producers say, well, just put that light up there, we just need to get this shot off in 15 minutes, and okay, great. There are some of those jobs you have to do. But on the flip side, it doesn't mean that, okay, I can slap a light up, but why don't I put up a diffusion panel? Or maybe why don't I salt and pepper the light to make it a little warmer? Salt and pepper meaning if I have like 6 bulbs in, I'll put like 1 tungsten and 2 daylight, just to give it a little more warmth. There are things you can do that will really speak to your craft. And again, set yourself above, and I'm going to say it's very competitive out here. So, and you are in a competitive business. So it'll set you above other people or set you apart so that you'll start developing your reputation for what you do and eventually get hired. I mean, that's ultimately what we're doing this for. And that, I hope you're to go into film school not just to put a bunch of social media videos up. I think you want to get out there, and you're telling me that you want to work with the crew, you want to command a crew, you want to work with great talent, with great writing, so you have something to work with, your blueprint, your script. So the only way that you can work with great creative and great talent and great directors is if they consider you great at what you do. So you have to kind of really think about elevating your craft and keep that excitement, even though, and I know all of you are excited now, try to keep that as far and as long in your career and find ways to keep excited, the new equipment, or try to shoot a new genre. Those are the things that I think really never leave us. If not, go sell insurance. Because this is a hell of a tough job, and it really doesn't have any place for people who are a little thin-skinned and don't have a lot of self-worth. You're going to have to really value yourself for what you do in order to stick through the really tough times. Because there are going to be tough times. You're going to be tested. And that's both waiting for the phone to ring, but also on set when an actor, and I'm not going to say who, will come up and say, now how do you plan on lighting me? And you have to say, well, and half of them will look at the lights if you're worth your salt. And they'll know exactly what you're doing, but they're testing you to see if you're up to their level. Again, Chris Lockhart, I don't know if this class was involved with Chris's.
Yeah, Chris spoke for us. He's the story editor from William Morris, and the producer.
Yeah, if you can tell with Chris, it's no BS. I mean, he is an A-list. I mean, you were amongst the giant there. He's so self-deprecating. I mean, he just, I'm nobody. Oh, no, he's really somebody. Right. And if when he spoke to you, I'm sure he gave it to you in both barrels. He doesn't sugarcoat it. Because in our industry, you're going to tell, I mean, there are some times, and I witnessed it, learning myself as I'm self-taught, and I go to seminars and pay, to go to these master classes when I was younger. And some of the, DPs or directors will kind of sugarcoat things. Oh, yeah, it's such an inclusive. No. The thing to give, the way to give best advice, I think, for film people is to be honest about it and say, these are the challenges, these are the tough parts. Because everybody has the rewards, right? Everybody wants to have their name on the seat, everybody wants to be able to work with the best and the best people. So everybody's motivated. But what they're not, I think, aware of how very difficult it is. And if it sounds discouraging, and maybe Chris at times may, or I may sound it, we're not trying to discourage you. We're trying to let you know that you're in for a rough ride. You know, you're trying to be the equivalent. Again, I don't want to be elevated to that level, like a Navy SEAL going through buds or something, which I've known people who go through. It's not that tough. But when you think about it, in your own life, in your own world, it is. Because if you fail at it, what are you going to do? That is the question. If you spend all this time going to film school, and you invest your money in your cameras, and you get 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and you're not where you want to be, that's when you start figuring out if you're truly meant to be in this business. Because you have to find your path. And the quicker way you find your path, I think, is to really identify who you are, what you want to do, and as Chris always says, you got to do the work. There's no way around it.
Absolutely. Now, some of the students have sent questions. They have questions that they want to ask you, so I'm going to open it up to some of the students to ask questions. You may or may not see them, but you will hear them. So who's going to ask the first question? This is Alex.
Hi.
Hey, Alex.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
I had a question. You were talking about how like sometimes like when you're out and active and you're getting phone calls for gigs, how do you feel about when you have enough experience, like getting into like being a cinematographer or whatever profession like we choose to be in Hollywood? How would you feel about like we say if we wanted someone to join like a labor union, like for example the Cinematographers Guild, would that make the process of like getting job security easier, or would it just be like I don't know, like would it be easier to like get like gigs that way?
Okay, like professional affiliations, out here it's IATSE, the local. You have to make a distinction between a union. And it's actually a perfect question, Alex, because I just lost a job because of this, the whole union thing. You have to remember understand that there's the union, which is actually a contract that the various studios and signatories, producers sign and say they will only work with signed union talent, be it actors, be it camera people, film people. And then there's the ASC, the American Society of Cinematographers, which is a guild, which is non-union. So the ASC has no contract per se with any of the studios or any of the producers. So just being on ASC will not necessarily get you onto a union job. So splitting that aside, let's put ASC and the guild off to this side. Let's speak specifically to a union. Every major city has the union regarding camera people, stage people, press people. So in order to join the union, you have to have X amount of hours on union jobs, and more importantly, I think, since I'm not union, again, you can have a union rep that can probably speak more clearly about this, but my understanding is that you have to, I don't know about being sponsored, but when you join, you pay dues, and it's just not anybody can get in the union. You have to qualify with your body of work, and then somebody, I believe, has to vouch for you, kind of bring you in. Once you're union, you are supposedly only supposed to work on union jobs. So if you're in a very large, let's say, media center like Los Angeles, Chicago, maybe New York or Dallas that has union work, then that might be beneficial. I find that most people who are freelance, which I am a non-union, I've done my entire career non-union, have more opportunities to shoot various things, independent films, non-union films. But if you are elevated in your craft and all of a sudden you become as let's say a grip, or you're working with the camera department, you want to work on, let's say, Castle, or if you want to work on, probably Game of Thrones and all these larger types of shows, you will have to be union. And once you're union, the union isn't going to secure you your amount of work. What's going to secure you the amount of work is your network within the union. So if you're working with a busy crew, let's say I come in as a grip and I'm a union grip, And you want to position yourself so that all the union key grips in Hollywood, the people who actually hire the grips, you know all the key grips. If you come in as an electrician, right, you're running cable and you're setting up lights, you want all the gaffers, the union gaffers, to know who you are. If you're a gaffer and you want to work, you want to make sure all your union DPs know who you are.
Okay.
So it's more about the type of work you want to work on. Yes, if you want to work on stuff that you see on television, at the movie theaters, you will have to be 99% of it's union work at that level. But that's only probably about 10% of the work that you're going to be available to you. The other 90% is non-union, and that includes independent films. That includes, anything, 99% of the stuff you see at Sundance in New York with Tribeca. A lot of those are non-union jobs that you can get on. So I would advise that if you are not union now, you're probably better just to work so that you can amass a amount of chops and skill. And then once you have that skill level and you have money coming in, you have your day job. It's always better to have a day job in the business, because I can guarantee you if you have a day job outside of the business, you'll never be in the business. So if you're a waiter or if you're working at Best Buy and you want to get in the movie business, that's your day. You'll never really get in it. You better be a PA. You better be an extra on set. You got to be in the game in order to play the game. So all you're doing is delaying your failure as being a day job outside the business. Of course, actors can be waiters, and that's fine, or do other things. But as a crew person, no, you've got to be in the game. So my recommendation is, you're in Milwaukee. Is this where this is?
Yes.
Get in communities with Milwaukee filmmakers and make yourself available first, probably as a PA or as a grep or extra hammer or swing or whatever you can do, and get yourself known. And if you have to work for lunch, get on set and work for lunch if you need to. But get known by the people who can hire you, either gaffers, key grips. If you're in the makeup department, key makeup. If you're a writer, get in with somebody like Chris Lockhart, a story editor, and be a reader. There's huge amount of work scripts that need to be done, and there are stories beyond stories about successful writers who started off just as being readers. And you have to do coverage, and write it up, and then hand to a guy like Chris. But eventually, that's again how that path would go. So as far as filmmaking goes, from a crew perspective, pick the craft that you're interested in, and start working in that craft and making yourself available, and work on your social skills, meaning, how you communicate with people, how you get along with people. It's really important because we all are real, and we want to hire and work with people we enjoy working with. So if you have to bite your lip on set, bite your lip on set. But never be the first one to speak. Always let the person that hires you speak. And then you'll get hired more often than if you just come full throttle and pitching all the time. So.
Cool. All right, awesome. Other questions? Some of you said you wanted to be cinematographers, so what kind of questions do you have? Yeah.
How did you build yourself up to be a DP? Did you just start gripping on sets first, or?
Well, who am I speaking with?
This is Spencer.
Hey, Spencer. Well, how I started, actually, I was, as I said, I was a business major, and I was working in the corporate world, and I always, we would be, in these situations and see these training tapes. And by seeing these training tapes, I kind of rekindled my interest, these videos that teach you how to, sell, or, you probably see a lot of human resources, but these tapes that, are always out there, these shows that are always out there trying to have you perform a certain way or not do things a certain way. But what I saw there was, it rekindled my interest in photography and people, shooting, really. Because I said, somebody's got to shoot that stuff, right? So I go, well, and I'm not enjoying what I'm doing now, which is working in the corporate world. So what I started doing is I really started just getting on set. In LA, we're really fortunate because there's a lot of stuff that are being shot. Like, I don't know if you see Dexter. Anybody know Dexter? Dexter shot in Long Beach, which is, just around the corner from where I live. So you would I first started hanging out on those sets, believe it or not. I was kind of a lurker. So we would go and I'd watch movies being made and things like that. And then, fortunately, out here, there's a lot of free work to be had. People are making movies or they're doing their own thing. So I started working for free as a PA, and then I kind of worked my way up, and I just discovered the camera department and the lighting department. So I started just being an extra grip, and pretty soon people started paying me for that. So what happens is, again, you have to make yourself available to the people who can hire you. So if you're in Spencer, are you a shooter, Spencer? You already shoot yourself? And
Yeah, I've done some DP work and lighting and camera work and stuff.
what I would do with you, since you're already accomplished and you have a skill set, I would hook up with a director, or more importantly, I would hook up with a bunch of cool actors. Because you got to shoot something, right? You can't just kind of go out there and do a test and shoot, your patio. So go out there, get some actors that you know are actually good and and passionate, and start shooting scenes. And if you can combine that with, oh, there's a writer that we know, oh, and the writer wants to direct. Well, go ahead and start, you're making yourself available to those individuals, so you start building up your body of work. What will happen is that those writers, those actors, those fellow classmates are going to start getting work, right? They're going to start getting jobs. And what are they going to do? They're going to want to work with people they've already worked with. So they're going to start passing your name around, Spencer, and pretty soon, and it will happen, this is the way it always happens, you're going to get a call out of the blue from somebody that you worked with, either on a student film or you were a grip on a local cable commercial. The director was really impressed the way you hustled, and you remember that, oh, you know something about cameras, so they'll give you a chance. I got my chance. I was doing a lot of corporate and commercial work, but I really didn't do a lot of work out of, let's say you see on TV. And my break came with a director named Todd Robinson and hired me to come in and shoot a really major feature documentary called Stand and Be Counted. It was shooting all these major recording artists like Elton John and Sting and Bonnie Raitt for the old folks. And David Crosby was for Crosby, Stills and Nash. Neil Young and all these guys. So I went from obscurity basically one day, and I skyrocketed, and as Todd would say, got my dance ticket punched. And Rex has interviewed Todd many times on his show. So what you do by your network, by making yourself available, like the reason why Todd invited me to come in is because his producing partner was my friend, Sidney. And Sidney Sherman brought me in because I shot his student stuff and a lot of, been around for a long time with Sidney. So again, it all started with, student filmmakers, that was probably 8 years earlier, 5 years earlier. And it evolved that Sidney got in the position that he started working with Todd. Todd, of course, worked with Ridley Scott. So you know at what level that Todd is at. And the next thing you know, I got elevated into that world. If that can happen from a kid here in Orange County, which is the same kid as in Milwaukee, trust me, Orange County is not at all like LA. So, I had the same amount of chance as you guys would have. And then overnight, really in one day, and I got elevated to that pool to play in. And then from there, my work got known, and then a guy like Chris Lockhart called and said, hey, I love your work because of Todd's job, I got Chris's job. So that's kind of the way this business works. So get involved in your Milwaukee filmmaker community, and then from there, get your chops, set, and then make your decision. Do I go to New York? Do I go to Wilmington, South Carolina? The South is doing great. Actually, there's more work down in the South than there is going to be in Hollywood for you, unless you can get into a union situation that Alex was asking about. Don't come to LA unless you're ready to slug it out. I would rather go to another top production area, probably in the South, where they're shooting, I think Sons of Anarchy and things like that. If you want to get in the cable world, you don't want to get in the not to belittle Chris, but not in that whole William Morris, WME, Chris, he flies high, and you're never going to get into that world. I'm going to say never. Yeah, there's that story you'll see, but you'll never get there. through that route. But you will get there by developing a body of work and let's say the independent film world. And all of a sudden Hollywood comes to you. And why would you want to go to Hollywood? Actually, when you can self-distribute, you can make movies. It really comes down to ego, right, Rex? I really believe, and Tom Robinson, I think you even mentioned that with you in Movie Beats, is if you will check your ego at the door and say that I really don't need to see my movie up in Hollywood or on HBO, but I can self-distribute my own movie. I can go ahead and get people to pay me money for it, alternative distribution sources. That's the future. And if you can build it up, even on social media, if you can build up your reputation as a filmmaker, then Hollywood will be calling you. That's kind of how it works. Like Chris says, you need to come with more than just your script, right? You got to come with more than just you as a talent. You have to have people around you. When you hire Ridley Scott, the production company doesn't worry about hiring anybody else. Ridley's going to bring everybody with him. So be your own, Ridley Scott, or be your own, Christopher Nolan in Milwaukee. And I'm telling you, that's how they all do it. That's how Christopher Nolan did it. That's how Linklater did it. That's how Rodriguez does it down south. He became his own, the filmmaker, self-contained unit, all on their own, and they were doing great work, and now Hollywood finds them. So that's kind of, I think, the business model, if you will, for filmmakers is, don't get the old school way, the dinosaur, the way of thinking, I got to go to Hollywood, I'm going to work my way up. No, that you'll be dead by the time you go. Go ahead and make films with the people you are passionate about making films with. You have the access to equipment, you have the access to locations. And just go ahead and make movies, and then be smart about it. Again, as you were asking Spencer, work with, align yourself with people who can hire you. So that's your networking. That's the networking part.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. I forget how many friends we have in common, and what a small circle all of these people and all these players are. But Todd is marvelous. I had wanted him to talk for the class, but his schedule also didn't allow him to do that. But hopefully another semester, another time. But absolutely, Chris, Todd, Penn. There's so many.
Randy's my composer on all of my films that I work on, and I met Randy through Todd. So, and then Ken King. Ken King. I don't know if you know Ken. He did Pulp Fiction as a production sound mixer, and I met him through Todd.
Yeah.
And I've worked with Ken my entire career since Todd. So, again, you're going to have your break. Everybody, actor has their break. Well, it's the same thing for us crew members. So, but the only way you're going to have your break is, and Todd used this football analogy. For people who want to, let's say, play in a professional football game, well, if you pay a ticket to watch a professional football game, I guarantee you'll never play in the game. You got to figure out how to get on the bench. You could be the third string punter, but if the first two punters go down, and the coach is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Dude, you're in the game." So that's where you kind of have to kind of put your mindset, is that all your energy, all your effort has to be in positioning yourself so that you're on the field in a position where you can play in the game. Not be the referee. Now, the referee is there. He's going to be at the Super Bowl, but he'll never be able to touch that football and play in the game. But some people are cool with that. Some people just want to be the TMZ people, the paparazzi people. Those guys are all around the game. The insurance people. All these guys are kind of around it, and that's cool being around it. You'll go to red carpets, and you'll go to film festivals. But if you truly are in your heart, you want to make and create, the things that you're seeing on the screen, then you got to be in the game. And once you're in the game, you got to find out what level of game you want to play. And if you want to play at the highest level, then you got to elevate your craft to the highest level. Because no matter, again, I'm going to go back to Christopher, as he said, everybody has a script. Denzel Washington has his own movies. He would tell me that Denzel wants, but he can't even get them made. Because there's a certain pecking order that happens in Hollywood. So stay away from Hollywood is my recommendation if you want to be a cinematographer. Stay close to your city in Milwaukee. Mine those resources. Get really good at what you do. Get your reputation up. And then decide, okay, where can I take this on the road? Am I good enough? And you got to be honest. Do I really want to be in Hollywood? Then take it on the road to LA or New York or Wilmington. But you might find that it's just actually kind of cool making films in Milwaukee. and then all of a sudden Hollywood might actually come to you.
Oh,
So yeah, there's a lot of ways of skinning the cat. So success is, I think, the ability to do what you love and get paid for what you love. And then whatever level after that you do it at, well, that's what it is. But I never worked a day since 1987. I haven't put a tie on since 1987. I haven't set an alarm clock to get up to work since 1987. I set an alarm clock to get to set, but what I do isn't work. I get paid to do what I love to do, and I work with people that I love to be around. And that's the benefit of what, as filmmakers we can do if you have a passion for it. But it's tough. It is very tough. May I digress here on a personal side? Is that okay, Rex?
what's that?
Can I digress on a personal note?
Sure.
If you are not married, if you do not own a house, if you do not have a big car payment, that's good for getting in this business.
Yeah.
Because if you are married, if you do have a house payment, if you do have a big car payment, at your stage right now, that's a drag on your career. And I'm going to be brutally honest, because what happens if your spouse says, I really don't want this ride. I don't like being always in flux of not knowing where the rent's coming from. I don't know. It's really not fair to them. So make sure that the people on your personal side, this is playing in the game, guys. On your personal side, the things you do, don't be buying big cars, don't get big attachments to anything, because if you start getting good at what you do, you're going to start working a lot, and you may be called. Like I went to China last year. Well, luckily my fiance understands what I do, and she's kind of cool with it. But if she's not cool with it, that could be a big strain on your personal relationships. Even buying a dog. I have my little Bo, he's sitting back here. I have to figure out what do I do with Bo if I'm gone for a month. So those are the things that, the less of those things you have, the more you'll be able to focus. So, just at your age and at your part of the career, try to have your attachments to what you want to do in the business. If you owe money, owe it on money on a camera or on some Cinema Prime lenses. Those are what you want to owe money at, because you can make money from that and it'll get you hired. Having a really nice, hot, 50th anniversary Mustang right now is not a good thing to own. I'd rather have like a minivan.
I will concur with you in that, there's a time when people go, I'm going to go backpacking through Europe, or I'm going to backpack through the United States if they're living in Europe, because they can do it. They're at an age where there's an opportunity, and they could take 6 months or a year, and they could do whatever they wanted, and they could live off a shoestring or what. That's a time actually to pursue your career, because you're not encumbered by any obligations. You can pack and go with a crew at the drop of a hat. When you're married, you have children or other obligations, it becomes harder to do that unless they themselves understand and support that. So there are real world constraints when it comes to pursuing careers. I say never let anything stop you as long as you maintain your relationship. Don't destroy a relationship over a movie. It's not worth it. The people are most important, and the people who love you and who you love are the most important. So you do what you can. That's very cool. I wanted to return to something that you said, and now I don't necessarily remember what it was, but primarily the notion of learning. Oh, the learning lighting. You were saying that some actors will test you and say, "How are you going to light me?" You find this in almost everything. If an actor works television series or they work in movies a lot, they know how they're made up, they know how they're lit, they know how they record best, they know their best side, they know where the camera placement should be, they know what lenses there are. The very savvy professional actors, if you're a first-time DP or first-time director, first-time sound designer, first-time makeup artist, first-time whatever, they may very well come up to you and say, so, what are you going to do about this? And they are testing you. It was Brando who used to always throw out some kind of, like, well, why don't we do it this way? And he knew his way was crap, but if the director said, oh, yeah, that's a great idea, you go, well, now I know what I'm dealing with.
Right.
So he would propose things that he would never want you to do, and then see if you sucked for it, if you were just kind of a kiss-ass, if you were like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. People will test you, and they can be very pleasant when they test you, or they can be cantankerous and cranky, depending on who they are or how they're treated. So knowing how to light, knowing how to frame, knowing knowing your craft, you know, is worthwhile, and especially I think as a cinematographer to be able to paint with light and do the things that you're talking about. And also because you also want to know how long the technical side to it, how long will it take to light this set, how long will it take to do this, so that you can give the answer to a director or a DP, because you will be running on schedules, and you have to, you can only estimate, but you give your estimation based on experience of having done it a lot.
Right. And I think you're onto something in regards to the skills beyond lighting and technical and camera. Again, we're speaking about cinematographer DP, DOPs if you're in Europe. And what part of that is the ability to lead and guide and instruct a crew. So, yes, there are a lot of one-man bands out there that can shoot, and again, these are more like maybe a filmmaker mindset. But when you become a DP, you're responsible for pretty much everything that has related to the camera and lighting, which means that you're going to have to be able to work with crews.
You have a department.
Yes, you are responsible financially as well as safety-wise. Slates for Sarah, this tragic accident we had with the first or second AC down in Georgia on a pretty, fairly
The second.
a big enough film that they should have known better. So there are times I work with helicopters, and helicopters are very dangerous. I've personally known a couple of people who've gone down. One of our helicopter pilot. John Gibbs from Navagosa passed away. He was shooting a Discovery military thing about 2 years ago and crashed. And John was, he was a very skilled pilot. My cousin Darren Okada, 3-time ASC president, who helped me get in the business as far as from an interest, a motivational part. He really encouraged me, even though he was Darren Okada, again, ASC, Dr. Dolittle 2, Mean Girls, all this stuff. Darren never went to film school. So there are a lot of ways of getting into it, but my point is that you have to be able to communicate your ideas. You have to, maybe be a referee if your key grip and your gaffer kind of aren't seeing it the same way. You have to have the politics of when the agent or manager calls up the producer and says, well, my actor doesn't like the way that your DP is lighting her. You have to be able to adjust and adapt, because you're not there because of, the movie's not there because of you. You're there because of normally that actor or that director you're working really for. So you kind of have to adjust your game and have to know how to take the blows, put your ego away for a bit, and look at the situation from their perspective. So the more that, again, it goes back to people skills, the more that you work experience on crews where you're at right now, the more conflict that you kind of get involved with by, kind of trying to figure it out at this level of your career, it's going to all really help you. So don't be afraid of the conflict. Don't be afraid of the situation. Every day I go to set, I get a little nervous. I think, again, when you're, Roger Deakins, I hear many times, and I spoke with him a couple of times, and ran into each other a few times when I was doing the film, and we were working at Kodak, and he would always say that he always gets a little nervous. And if you're not nervous, and this is, a huge DP, all the Coen brothers are in their stuff, and Big Lebowski, all this stuff. So when you start thinking about it, if you're not nervous, then you're kind of taking it a little too cavalier. And that's when things really go bad on set. You're not prepared, so you want to feel your little, that little cringe in your stomach every day. Because that keeps you on point, and that allows you to really test yourself. Don't get too comfortable that you keep going back to the same thing or going out on the same kind of jobs. Push yourself and really understand that all these challenges and working with difficult actors and directors and figuring out how to light something, and you only have one household plug and you only got a tooth carrot, you don't know how the thing's wired, how we're going to light this if I'm going to be blowing fuses. All those challenges are going to help you later when it, I guess becomes even more important when you're working like on a Christopher Lockhart A-list level.
Fair enough. Awesome. Other questions? Yes?
Hello, my name's Stephen. Thanks for...
I can't see you, but...
You can't see it, but this is Stephen.
We're on the other side.
Stephen, okay.
I was wondering, how do you like working with small pond films? And what was your most and least favorite thing working there? Like, are they hiring, and what is the hiring process?
Oh, Small Pond, and I think you're referencing that film, the little short film Anniversary we did.
Yes.
Well, it was a terrible boss because that's our company when we started. So I didn't really work there. We kind of formed Small Pond Films with my writing partner Mary DeRosa Hughes, and that's what we are developing. We're doing another film this summer that we're developing. So as far as working for Small Pond Films, well, it's actually kind of working for ourselves. So basically, what's going to happen when you have a film. And this is the filmmaker side of me, and you're going to probably, if it's a real film and you're going to raise money, you're going to start a company around just that film. So that's where Small Pond Films are. So that's kind of what the process is. As far as working, and we shot it, I'm sure there was a great experience. It was more of a proof of concept, that film. Stephen, I'm going to I don't know if this probably won't answer your question, but I'll use it as a jumping off point. I was known as a documentary cinematographer, and more importantly, as a feature documentary cinematographer. So stuff that I would shoot goes to the movie theaters, rather than reality TV or reenactment stuff. So a lot of it ends up at the theater, and then it goes over to the cable channels. As a documentary cinematographer, and I'm trying to get my directing chops, or trying to make a movie. Well, I'm pigeonholed as a documentary cinematographer. So I had to prove that I knew how to cast, and I could light, and I could direct and shoot talent. So that's why we did Anniversary, that short film. It was never meant to be a festival film. It was never meant to be, really put out. It was just an exercise. But we said, hey, what the hell? We'll put it out there. We got it in a couple film festivals. So that was kind of cool. But this next film that we're coming up with is much more commercial and has a whole different slant. The point is that even as a cinematographer, or as a filmmaker, that's what I say, getting out of your comfort zone. And even though I'm a DP, I decided, I want to hook up with my writing partner. We'll make a film, produce it, go through all that entails. And that actually informs me as a better DP, because now I understand what producers go through. I go through a writing process. Oh, this is why the script ends up the way it does after all of those mutations. We had a great story editor in Christopher Lockhart, so that's great. We tapped a lot of people, and Todd Robinson as well, so they gave their feedback. So I had to learn how to take some tough notes from people who are really, really expert in their field. And I had to say, well, yeah, Todd said that, but that's crap. And Christopher said to change that, and that's crap. Or I said, no, that was actually quite good. So all of those lessons and all of those things, as filmmakers, if you're a writer and if you're a director or performer, if you get criticized for your film and people start falling asleep during it, or it kind of hurts on a personal level. No matter what anybody says, they say, I don't read my reviews. Well, I think they kind of do, or their agent does for sure. So all of that, is putting yourself out there, is what I said earlier, is testing yourself, getting uncomfortable. And for people who at your age, I think that's going to be almost normal, because that's but as you get older, I have a friend of mine, I call him the dinosaur. He hates high def, he's from the old school, and worse than that than television days. So I think his career is pretty much over. He doesn't want to shoot with, I love the Panasonic GH4, I don't know if you that 4K, I don't know if anybody's shooting with that. If you a Red Dragon or a Mira or the Cinema Pocket camera, throw all that stuff away. Give me a Panasonic GH4 DSLR camera body, and I can rock that thing pretty well. In fact, that's my new business model, is to do feature work with GH4. Kind of prove to the feature producers I can do work with a DSLR camera body with all the right camera support and lighting and all that stuff. And then if you show it to an audience, the audience doesn't know if you shot it on a GH4 or a Red Dragon or Alexa or an Amira. All they know is if they experienced and it was what they wanted to experience. And I'm not going to say good or bad, but so whenever I speak to young filmmakers, I said, get off of the gimbal, get off of the mindset of 4K, get off of the mindset of the latest, slider. That's all small ball stuff. That's really, that's a given. You're gonna research it. Speak to me about an actor. Speak to me about a story or a script movement. Speak to me about how light hits, or how you're gonna light the scene. that's when I know I'm going to work with somebody who really is, I'm going to say, at the same level of people who really make films. They get paid to do it and get paid to do it on an everyday level. We don't get involved with all this other technical stuff. We get involved, we love it, but that's a given. We're going to do it anyway. But that's not what we're focused on. That's not our passion. So if you find yourself more at, on the V&H, catalog site versus if, you're watching Vimeo things and trying to be inspired and trying to find actors to work with, then, you may need to rethink your mindset.
I got a question for you. Do you, and then you think of who's going to ask the question next. When you directed the short, did you also shoot it, or did you work with a DP?
Of course I shot. So a lot of it is, as you get higher and higher in your skill set, what happens, it allows you the freedom, like an anniversary or a short film that I shot and also directed. It allows you to do the camera and the lighting, provided you have critical key positions filled. I had a great gaffer, I had a great key grip, not really experienced, but really good. And they understood what I've been working with them a long time. We had a great sound person. So that allows you to give instruction, okay, I need to have soft light coming from this window here. I need a top light, make it a coffin light so we keep the light off the walls. Yada, yada, yada. You give your lighting instruction, and, keep it at 2.8. I'm shooting at 320, and then you go away. And then you go work with your actors, because as a director, the worst thing you can do is abandon your actors and make them think that they're not important while you're sitting there tweaking your lights. That's the worst thing that you can do as a director. So on a small film like we shot, that's okay. It's a very intimate cast. I worked with the lead actress quite a bit on some Blue Cross commercials, so that's okay. But as you go higher and higher up the level of production, the cost of production, then that's when you have to start backing away from even DPing or operating your camera and allowing the craftspeople, because you're going to get 1,000 more questions, and there's so much more at stake. So you have to kind of divorce yourself from, because I've been on quite a few commercials when we were shooting much bigger commercials in the early 2000s when budgets were huge. So as a DP, I didn't even operate the camera. I would literally sit and kind of give my instruction to my gaffer, give my instruction to the camera operator, and sit with the director and sit with the actors, like Leslie Nielsen or somebody. Well, with Leslie's stuff, I operated because it was pretty straightforward. Leslie likes to work with a camera prompter, so there wasn't much anything sitting there. Writing the camera. But when camera moves and all these kind of things that are a little more complicated, you have to kind of back away from that so you can kind of be the conductor of the orchestra. But on smaller shoots, yes, you can operate, you can light, as long as your crew is solid. If your crew's not solid, then it's just going to be a train wreck no matter what.
So I got a little housekeeping. We got about 8 minutes or so left, and I'm really enjoying this. I loved what you said, because I think it's totally important, especially for directors, to understand that sometimes they can get so caught up with the technical stuff that they forget their cast, and it's the cast who brings their story to life. And you want to keep your cast as happy as possible and work with them and show them the respect that they deserve, and hopefully they will do likewise with you. Sometimes they don't, depending on where that director is in the emerging process. So it's important to realize who you're working with, and whether you're working with student actors or very successful actors, you should treat them like gold as best as you can, and develop that habit and that practice early on. All right, question. You sent in questions, so just voice them. Yes.
I got a question. My name's Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi. When you're looking at a script and you're trying to come up with sort of the look and feel for the whole film, what's your process like?
The first thing I do, provided that the director, hasn't given me any, references or any kind of direction or notes, I just like to read the script. I usually go to somewhere kind of quiet, if it's out on my deck or somewhere, and I read it first as if I'm reading a novel, and I try to get a sense of the story, and it's always about figuring out the story. And if it's something that speaks to me, and if it's a, what I say, a good script, and a good script is all relevant. To me, a good script is something that I forget that I'm reading a script and I just start experiencing the story. Then the lighting and the camera, the language of the camera, the movement of the camera starts coming to me pretty quick. If I start struggling with, if images don't pop up, if I don't kind of have a definitive way of, I'm seeing it in front of me, then that's when I know I'm having a little trouble identifying with the material, as they say. And that might not be the right script for me. Now, of course, I'm always looking at it you've got to get hired, so I will try to make a script that's not right for me. I will try to find somewhere that I can make it relevant to what I can do with my skill set. But if I'm judging a script, I usually try to find out if I'm visually seeing it. If I can see it visually in my mind's eye, that's where the lighting approach comes. And then what I'll do from there is I'll make notes in the margins of the script. And then along with those notes, I might have references. If you have photography or art references, movie references, I might make emotive references. I might say forlorn, or I might say longing, or I might say struggle, or something that evokes an emotion or a feeling, and that will inform, again, my lighting. So that's my process. My process, again, the story, then I need to see it, and once I start seeing it, I start feeling, and then I start making notes about emotive things, emotional things, human things. A word might say, love, or kill, or something. And then as I reread the script over and over again, the margins of my page start getting filled with these notes. And then all of a sudden, it becomes very clear what the photography should be, and it becomes very clear how now I can communicate back to the director as far as and then start giving references, because everybody, I think, kind of works this way, either with photography or photographs, naming movies, music. I know Clint Eastwood, uses music a lot because he's, a jazz musician. So everybody has the kind of Michael Mann. He takes his, I don't know if you've ever seen Michael Mann work, but he takes his still camera everywhere, and he's shooting stills. So that's how he kind of communicates. Ridley Scott, he has a sketch pad, and he's like, he communicates that way. Michael Mann on one hand has to take a picture. Ridley Scott, just do it this way. He just, out of his mind, he draws it. So whatever your process is, I think the most important part is to make it repeatable. Every time you go to the script, again, because we're talking about professional stuff versus, you want to get hired, so you have to be able to communicate effectively with your director or producer about how you want to approach the photography and the lighting. In order to do that on a repeatable basis, you kind of have to come down to it's like note-taking. I don't know if you guys in college yet, some people take a certain way of taking notes. So that's the same, and that would be my recommendation, is go through that process and discover it if it's more note-driven or if you're more, loose. If you're kind of good with remembering and going back with a pitch.
Awesome.
You got to communicate your idea back to the director.
Time for one more question.
I guess my question would be we've talked kind of a lot about how you should build your skill set before you start looking for actual work, especially because once you get out to LA, you'll get pigeonholed really fast. How do you know when your skill set has gotten good enough that people are going to be willing to pay for it? Or I guess maybe a better question would be how do you know that first job that you get isn't also going to be the last job that you get?
Right. Actually, when you think about the first job you get is always your last job, right? Every job is your last. So the thing that you have to, I think, to be clear about this, it's like if you can get paid right now, tomorrow, if you walk out that door and somebody taps you on the shoulder and say, hey, can you shoot this little pizza commercial for me at the local pizzeria, take it. It's not like you don't want to get paid. So the first and foremost, go out and get paid and screw up. My point is that when you know you're ready, let's say if you want to make that big move and go to and make that life commitment to move to another area or to announce to the world, yeah, I'm a working DP and that's all I'm doing and I'm not going to be a crew guy, I'm just going to be a DP. You know that you're actually, the market will tell you, not you telling the market. When people start calling you, emailing you, your reputation is going to get out there, and that's when you kind of know you are a working DP, is when you actually start getting phone calls from out of the blue when they want to hire you. Up until that point, you're still trying to prove yourself. Now, we all have to market, we all have to sell, and we're always on Production Hub or on Vimeo and YouTube and all that stuff, and that's great about the younger generation. They're very adept at social media. But you'll know when their phone starts ringing that you're ready to really become a professional cinematographer. And the only reason why the phone is ringing is because you did all the work, as Christopher said before that. You did go out on small jobs. You did work for free. You did go to Home Depot and experiment with the Cree light bulbs. And you figured out how to get a good look out of that. You did work on a couple of larger projects that you ran a crew, and you had to face some crew challenges, either with personality or time, and you had to make the shot when the sun was going down. All of those things are going to all add up to a reputation. And the only way you can build that reputation is by working. So that's why I'm saying go out there and shoot, get on sets if not as a DP. If you're not getting on the set as a DP or a camera operator, get on as an assistant, get on as on a loader, get on as a PA or a grip. But the more that you get out there, yes, you'll know you're ready when you start getting calls and people want to hire you, either for free or not for free. Don't turn any work down at this part of your career. Just go out there and work. If it's a train wreck, it's a train wreck. You'll have a great story to tell 20 years later. And it's a fun thing to sit around with some pretty big name DPs and hear their stories about when they first started, because we all have them and you have them right now. So enjoy your time and build your life experience, and then I'm sure you'll be taking jobs away from me pretty quick.
That's excellent. Listen, I sometimes forget to do this with guests, but a way that people can see your work, a website or Facebook page or something.
Oh, no, I'm pretty present. If you have my name anywhere spelled out, because it's a tough one. CurtApduhan, Curt Apduhan, and if you just type that in Google search, everything will pop up. Or CurtApduhan.com. You can go on Production Hub, Vimeo. Pop up. I'm the only one in the country. I mean, I have to do everything right. I can't do anything wrong because people can.
And I do have your name spelled out. They've received it in mail. It'll be on the YouTube channel and things like that, so people will see, how it's spelled. Absolutely. Curt, any final brief? Stephen, he's got a final question. This will have to be kind of brief, but go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, just wondering, where can we? Can we rent your films or buy them or watch them? Where's the best place to watch your films?
Let's see. Amargosa is available on the iTunes. Go Tigers is probably iTunes as well, or Netflix. Netflix is Go Tigers. That's a Ohio high school football documentary. Kind of cool film. Most Valuable Players, which is Christopher Lockhart and Matthew Kalis' film. That's on OWN, but that's also on Netflix. So Most Valuable Players, Netflix, Go Tigers. Stand to Be Counted was TLC, but I don't think they air that anymore. And then all the fiction stuff, I kind of don't promote it because it's it's not quite where I want as far as a DP goes. So that's another thing that's really important, if I might say that, is that if you're building your reel and everybody wants to put their reel up there, only put your best stuff on your reel. I know that sounds kind of weird, but you can have a great reel, and all of a sudden a producer or director will see just a couple bad shots or something that technically, don't put it on there because you might not get a call back because of that. Also, really focus your reel into things that you like to do. Eventually what will happen is you're going to get hired, right? So if you like drama, then put a lot of drama and that kind of lighting or thriller or horror stuff. If you do comedy, then do a separate comedy reel. Keep those, if you do, light, cable stuff or Lifetime television, put that on a different reel. And then start sending those reels out for specific jobs. So if it's a horror film, send your horror reel out. If it's a comedy, send your comedy reel out. And then post them on Vimeo that way and make a note. Because that way people will know that if you put them all together, it's not relevant. People are either producing a horror film, why do I want to see comedy? If I'm doing a comedy, why do I want to see really dramatic stuff? So show people what you really are good at, but break it up. Don't put everything in as just a general reel. That would be my recommendation. Really target the reel for the job.
That's awesome. Curt, you've been fabulous. I really appreciate this. It's good to see you again and again.
Hey,
And
thanks,
now that we Skype, we should Skype more often. And but no, this has been fabulous. This will go up on YouTube. I will call you as soon as I'm free, just to debrief and to catch back up with you. But I've enjoyed having you. Thank you so much. The students have enjoyed having you. You can't see them, but or most of them. So thank you kindly.
All right, well, thank you guys for the questions, and thanks for having me, Rex.
You bet. Thank you, Curt. Have a great rest of the day. I'll be talking to you shortly, I hope.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.